Hey, friends, welcome to another episode of the show. I'm Joe, and I'm telling you what, this is the best part of my every week, and I can't wait. Today, we are honored, absolutely honored, to be joined by one of the most, I would say, on purpose educational leaders in Minnesota. Please welcome Dr. Eric Hudspeth, Superintendent, Waseca Public Schools. Thanks for joining us on the show, Eric.
Thanks, Joe. I'm so glad to be here and have a chance to visit with you and your listeners.
Well, you look nice and buttoned up there. You're coming in for a landing. Hey, what's it like to be at the helm of Waseca Public Schools right now? And tell me a little bit more about this thing called Think Blue and Achieve Gold. I like
Right.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we are very proud Blue Jays here in Waseca, and our community and our school, we embrace the Blue Jay way. And as we think about our MTSS processes and all the things we do with students, it's
Yeah.
all about we are for the Blue Jay way. And so we want to think blue and achieve that gold as we get moving. We're a mid-sized district here in southern Minnesota that really prides ourselves on taking care of all of our kids and to be the best they can be. This is one of the most exciting districts I've had an opportunity to be part of now for the last 5 years, and we're really doing some great things for kids.
Well, what an exciting time to be a superintendent. I know your passion. We've had a chance to talk about a few things happening in your system and also beyond, but just about helping students um, not only excel in schools but also choose their path after high school. So you're passionately interested in how's our driving to prepare you for, right? And that all of the work that you're doing coming to fruition, it's just got to provide a ton of joy in this season right now.
It sure does. As we see our students who get ready to walk across the stage, our graduation's coming up here on June 1st. So we're excited to see, just over 140 Blue Jays meet that final end in their road of high school. But you're right, Joe. One of my purposes as a leader and an educator has always been to provide options for life for kids.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is not that they feel like that's their only thing they can do, but they get to choose it. We talk a lot about enlistment, enrollment, employment. What are you going to do after high school?
Wow.
And the point is they get to pick it, and we have to prepare for it. We need to serve the student who wants to be a welder and serve the student who wants to be an engineer, all in the same high school. And so that's a big part of our educational journey is to support those students so they have options. I talk with our staff all the time about what's your purpose? Why are you here?
Mm,
Because this
mm.
can be a hard job. This can be a challenging profession. So if you don't know why you're here, it can be even harder. But if
Yeah.
we know I know my purpose to provide those students options so they can have a great life, and I can drive myself every day with that. That's pretty
Well,
easy.
and you have been in the game for a while as well. I'm not gonna, assume that I know
Long enough.
chronologically where but I think about because we've our paths have crossed a number of times, but your teaching days, right? You were an elementary principal for a while, director of human resources, and that's the human interest story. And how many human resource directors, kind of follow that principal track to HR? It's rare, right? It's rare. But you had some org development as part of that as well, and now leading Waseca as superintendent since 2020, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've pretty much every angle. You're one of those five tool guys, as they say in baseball, right?
I've had the opportunity to do those things, but you know what the best part is, Joe, is I've done those in just 3 school districts. And so I've had the opportunity to be locally here in Southern Minnesota, and so I have a real connection with the region and with the communities around me, and so it has not been a situation where I've had to travel a lot to do those to explore
Same
those
area code.
opportunities.
You've
Yeah,
you've been in the same area code,
I have, and
not
that
zip
makes a
code, but
difference
area
now.
code. Yeah.
It's you're right, it's a little over 2 decades now, but we're getting to the point where, I feel really comfortable in our area. That's good.
So we got to talk. We got to talk about this. You've got a couple of books that are pretty fresh. And when the world do you find time to write books, right? But unlock your future, equipping
Yeah.
students to choose their path. That's a topic we just talked about, and then this culture-driven leadership piece. So answer the question: when do you actually find time to write? And what was the driving force behind each of those books?
Certainly, yeah, great question. So, yeah, I have a family with 4 school age just kids, and my wife's a teacher, so we're a busy family. But, as I was finishing up last spring with a dissertation, finishing up my doctoral research
That was
work.
another book that you wrote, by the
It
way.
was, right, exactly, exactly. But I don't know if you realize how much time you're spending on that until you're not. And so you realize that I all of a sudden had some time in my schedule to do some different things, and writing had become a passion and a skill during that time. And I just started writing some more, and I spend a little bit of time each day, schedule it out in my time, and I'm an early morning person to get that time in before the rest of the group is awake, and kind of get some things done. And just what I found when I started writing, and all of a sudden I thought, well, this needs to go one separate direction, this needs to go a separate direction, so it becomes different books as you flesh those ideas out. But Unlock the Future was probably one of my first thoughts as I was thinking about how do I help communities, school boards, and parents realize what a high school is for. It's to support students going forward. And so my vision as a parent of my child might be a 4-year school. But if that's not what the passion and the mission of that student is, why are we discouraging a trade? We
Right.
shouldn't be. What's our next option? And as school districts, our job is to make sure we have those options for kids. And so the book was almost a little bit of a um, opportunity to share that that's an okay track for kids, whatever they choose to do. And having business partners and all the connections you make in your community. Started thinking about, I don't know that I'd call it a playbook because there never is a playbook for something like that. But here's the things we can try. Here's
Yeah.
the things we can do.
A general guide or a kind of a field guide of some things that you might want to experience while you're here in this
Right.
season.
Yeah. And don't forget to think about the options. I think about
So
this.
true.
I have a high school junior. My oldest daughter right now is looking at colleges, and she's been looking at schools from Georgia to Washington. And why would you not do that? Go take a look, see what you think, see what's out there. And my sons, who knows what they'll choose to do? They're a little younger, and that's okay too. So that's the point of that. Writing was about
Mm.
remembering that we're not here to dictate what students' futures are, but to make sure they have the option to pick what they want.
Core in your book projects, but also in the way that you're leading your current school district. There's this thing, empathy keeps popping up, Eric. And I don't know, it seems kind of like a soft posture in
Mhm.
these in a world demanding some we got to lead through some hard things. So where does empathy come into play?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny. My dad worked in business for a number of years, and he kind of scoffs at the word empathy a little bit because thinking about exactly what you said is that almost a like you said a soft type term, but I would argue it's about human relationships. It's about understanding the team that you're working with and what they're going through, and the expectations don't get lowered. It's about making your creating a system so your staff can accomplish what they want to because you know them and you get to know them. Empathy is not about rolling over and letting people do what they like. Empathy is about really making sure you understand where everyone's coming from so you can put them in a position to be successful. Yeah,
Hmm.
I would argue it's the core of being successful and being accountable. In 2025, leading with a heavy stick doesn't work. It just doesn't. And I don't know that it ever did, but it was more acceptable in previous, I would say historically. Right now, to work with our current employees and staff, you have to understand what life looks like for them. So when I was in the human resources position, one of the things that I got reminded of quite often was, boy, you remember the human part of this quite a bit. That was something I was good at, remembering what the human aspect of it is. And black and white doesn't always work.
We
It's
don't live in
gotten
that world anymore.
we sure don't. And so that's a big part of what culture-driven leadership and some of my empathy writing works on. Is it not about giving in or not being a firm leader, but it's about understanding what people are about and using that then to leverage their skills for success and their experiences for success.
Hmm. Yeah, I've really been diving into this whole, as you say, empathy. I've been calling support.
Mhm.
Right, and that how it calibrates, it must calibrate effectively. We're gonna drill into this thing a little bit more, into challenge. So you've got it. It's this interesting balance and mix of not one or the other, it's a calibration of both. right?
Right,
That
right,
support and that challenge,
for
right?
sure. Yeah,
Which within a team environment, and I call it team intelligence, when you have that uh, TQ, how about that? Huh?
yeah, yeah, there you
How
go.
about that? I'm running with that.
You've
I'm
never
running with
seen that.
that.
Yep,
So, team intelligence is all about working within the team construct that understands, 1, I got your back, you know that, and I'm gonna push the heck out of you
right,
because your potential says you got more to give.
right,
How do you
exactly.
see that playing out as a superintendent, as a HR, director, as a
Yeah.
principal?
I think you're onto the right line of thinking as far as being supportive of teams because I think about we talk a lot about education about having a growth mindset. Well, how do you really share with the staff member they're supposed to have a growth mindset if you don't know where they're coming from and you don't know what they're dealing with in their life inside of school, outside of school, whatever that might be. So as a leader of a school district, I think it's important that we understand what our staff is working with so that we can provide the resources. Maybe that's just a listening ear as a resource to support um, their work going forward. What you never want to have happen, and this is not new news, is that staff goes silent on you. You want them to be able to continue to share with you and talk with what's going on. And do I think some things are more relevant than others? Of course. But you have to give the ear to the staff. And that's what really being empathetic is about when a leadership sense is about support and having that team intelligent, like you said, because it takes the entire system to get the work done. I mean, when you think about those students that are coming across the stage here next week for us,
Yeah,
that started in kindergarten. That started in preschool. And that first grade teacher should be just as proud of that kid and the work they did as
right.
the high school, as the senior, the AP government teacher. So I think that systemically, you can put people in the right places to be successful if you know who they are.
That is so true and definitely in alignment to that team intelligence stuff. And oftentimes we don't pause enough to think outside of kind of how we were trained and experiences that we've had for I would say 20 years, and I wish I could have them back.
Hmm.
I saw the world as I was.
Hmm. Right.
I didn't see the world as it is.
Yeah.
And within the human, systems, we have the opportunity to work with all sorts of different types of leaders.
Right.
And if you're stuck in an old way that's pretty inward facing, that influence tends to just get limited.
Yeah, which we all are vulnerable to doing. That's part of being human. Is our experiences are what our experiences are, and so it takes a team to really pull us out of that and ask those questions, understand what we can do, and we do some intentional work here in Wasika, and this is a term that I'm sure you've I've heard you say it before. You have to get out of working on the system or in the system, excuse me, and get out so you can work on your system.
Yeah,
And we do that monthly through some of our leadership team meetings where we call it half an hour of system time. And all of our leaders in the district have to step out and talk about what's going on holistically. You're all district leaders. You happen to be assigned to a certain spot, but you're all district leaders. And it's mostly just a reminder to think about you can't really focus on the big systemic things when in your day to day. And so you have to,
mhm.
but you have to take care of those things. You just have to create time to do both.
And the fact that you've got just this metronomic once a month where you've built it into your culture that says we're going to talk about our results, yes, but also our culture, our experiences.
Right.
Um, how important that is to developing a culture and a highly reliable system because they don't happen by accident.
Right.
They happen very, very intentionally. So as you think about maybe being able to break a bit more time, block some more time with your team. What are some of those areas that you're working on over the summer months? I say the stuff that you have in your dishwasher that you just need to kind of run, at a later time because right now it's more about nuts and bolts. So, what are some of those focus areas and things that you are working on with your leadership team, perhaps in the summertime, to just put you on this continued trajectory for excellence that you're on?
Yeah, we've got three really key ideas we're going to focus on this summer. And the first one's not going to surprise anybody, but getting a further handle on AI,
Yeah.
but specifically harnessing how we can use that to support our students. Um, I would say our experience has been a lot of talk about how adults use it and then what the rules are for kids. But we need to get out of that box and get into what are we going to use it for to be more successful and productive for students. And enhance critical thinking and that sort of thing.
It'll
The sec
probably have some rollout to policy eventually, but
Absolutely,
yeah, okay.
right. And I would say, and then also it's interesting, I had a chance to go to a conference out of state a few months ago, and I thought, "Well, there's a lot of things here I never heard of before. How is it that I missed this particular product, this particular idea?" And so we're going to spend some time this summer talking about how do we know what we don't know, and how do we innovate, and how do we think about so professional organizations, um, conference conversations, looking at the latest and greatest. Um, we don't want to fall victim to good being the enemy of great. What's next for
Mm.
us? And we're going to take some intentional time to think about that as a district, about how what's next is when you think about that. But and then I think the third one, which is more, quite frankly, just a little bit more operational, is we're going to spend some significant time thinking about whether or not our buildings and our school environments are set up the way they to be most effective learning environments for students. And
Mm.
we've got some aging buildings. We're a rural community in southern Minnesota, so we don't have um, unlimited resources. So we have to be creative with how we do that, and that's going to be some of our work this summer to think about what we need to do next for kids in that regard.
Well, in that agricultural valley that you're a part of there as well, I know Wasika is just it's, it's well known in terms of just the general support for education. I mean,
Yeah.
you're usually involved in most of the state tournament scenes that are out there, and your fans are absolutely bananas. I just I love the culture and the climate and the environment that you have that's all about the whole student there, Eric.
It really is. And I would say that one of the things I tell people when they say, "What's Wasika like?"
Mm.
Unwavering support for our schools. Our community loves their school district, but they expect results, and they hold us accountable. And when we have years where some of our academic measures don't reach the level we want them to, we hear about it. When we have you know students behavior issues maybe go above the norm, we hear about it because our expectations are we're going to have a great school here. And so that's the environment I love to work in because it's such a partnership with our community. Fortunately, we're on a really good track right now because we set up a system
Yeah.
to continue to support that. Got great leaders in all of our levels, great staff all throughout the district who want to be here and really feel connected to that blue and gold. And that's what's really exciting about being here.
Well, also, that does not happen by accident. I mean, you've been there for 4 or 5 years now, and my guess is you've had a bit of a chessboard out and playing a bit of a chess game to ensure you have the conditions in place that we're working towards, the capacity of the organization, caring greatly. You work the seas, right? You just,
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah,
and ultimately building an irresistible culture that when you have an opening, there's probably a thick folder of people that says, "Pick me."
we're very fortunate in that regard right now. The hiring we've had this spring has been very successful with some great people joining our team because I feel like we are an attractive district to work in, and we're doing great things for kids. Last night we had a chance to celebrate retirement for some of our teachers, and we celebrated a teacher who had been in our district for 41 years.
My
And
goodness.
how it how do you do that? You do that because you love where you work
Yeah.
and you know your purpose about supporting students. And believe it or not, she handed out then some keepsakes that she had kept for the years for some of our current teachers when they were in her fifth grade class. Oh, this note you wrote in fifth grade, here you go, Mrs. Johnson, that she had kept over all those years. And so
Oh, how rich.
what does that tell you about the culture of our district when you've got that going on? And all four retirees had at least a 30-year run in our district, and won the 41. So pretty exciting place to be.
Well, coach, I'm going to ask you if you got another pep talk left in you because not everybody's there. It's been a hard year, and I talked to superintendents, I talked to college presidents who are, yes, they're weary, they're tired, they're getting to the end of the finish line, but they're breathing pretty heavy right now.
Mhm.
But there are some that are wary, and that's different than weary. They're wondering, do I have what it takes anymore to do this kind of work? What kind of wisdom, what kind of encouragement? Because I'm sure you got to look yourself in the mirror most mornings and give yourself a pep talk because
Mhm.
leading today it's much different and it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. So a
Yeah,
word of encouragement, a
yeah.
little wisdom.
This is the most important profession you could be in to support our young people going forward. So I ask myself at the end of every day and the beginning of the next, did I make something better for kids today?
Mm.
And if I make something better for kids today in whatever I do, that's a successful day. But it comes back to something we talked about a few minutes ago. If you really understand your purpose and your purpose is to support students, then the hard days get less hard. Um, there's no arguing, Joe, that leading is hard,
Yeah.
and this is a tough environment to work in, particularly this time of the year when people get tired. But at the end of the day, I'm here to support students, and I've got a skill. Other leaders have skills, and the world would be remiss if we didn't have a chance to use all those skills to support all those great young people in our state and in our country. So,
Good.
for the superintendents and leaders that are getting through the end of it, um, did you do something to make things better for kids today? And if you did, that's a successful day. And there'll be budgets, and there'll be building things, and there'll be school board things, and those are the adult things. But how are the kids doing? And if you did
How are
something,
the kids doing? That is the mantra, isn't it? How are the kids doing?
and if they're doing okay, then we're doing okay.
Pat on back,
Yeah,
Dr. Eric,
yeah.
the empathic visionary, folks. Thank you. Thank you so much for just showing us what purposeful leadership it looks like on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, on every day. Because, like you say, it's a march, and it's an intentional march, right? And as you celebrate the culmination, I wish you advanced favor in all things commencement and graduation. Your books unlock the future and culture driven leadership. Folks, you got to take a peek at that. And I'm sure they can find them on Amazon,
I sure
correct?
can. Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Great.
you're going to want to check that out. Any last words before we go, boss?
I just really appreciate the time, Joe. You and I have known each other a while, and I really appreciate the time to connect more on this. And I admire the work that you and all the great people you work with. Keep driving forward for kids.
It
So
is life work, isn't it? Thanks for
sure is.
joining us today.
Yeah.
This has been
Thanks.
the show reminding you that everyone deserves to live in a community served by really healthy people like this amazing individual right here who are building